All right, let me stop you for just 2 seconds. A lot of people in the chat keep asking for guidelines. Motion 10, this year's conference agenda report from the LAZF, Latin American Zonal Forum, is just that. Okay, so there's an IP that's being drafted right now. It's not guidelines. I'm not trying to duplicate that. The IP is designed to get your home groups talking about any traditions that you want to apply or how to apply them in a virtual setting, including the 7 tradition, how to pass the basket, and anonymity in a virtual setting, and meeting etiquette. As an IP, it should be ready within the next couple of days. It's not guidelines. The idea is to start a discussion with your own home groups. This is a temporary thing. So we're just trying to get you guys up and running and to talk about how you run your groups. All right, the actual guidelines will be on the CAR report if it passes motion 10 from the LAZF. That's the fellowship's motion, well, Latin American Zonal Forum's motion. So if you want guidelines, that's where we do that. Right now, we're just trying to get you up and running.
We're talking about best practices right now.
Right.
Well, Chris, let's hit them. So, you wrote the pamphlet, hit them real quick.
All right, let me bring it up.
You know, we'll just touch it real quick, and then we'll get to what Greg was just getting ready to say. Because this is exactly like what Greg was saying. There is nothing. And actually, we have it. We have our experience for years and years and years of the meetings we've been doing. It's just how do we recreate that in a virtual space?
Can I jump in?
Please.
So when it comes to guidelines, as Greg said, and everyone else has been saying, we are already experienced members in providing services, public information to professionals, public information to addicts looking for our fellowship, hospital and institutions going into prisons, treatment centers, halfway houses. We already have a core group of fellowship that already know how to execute these services. Guidelines would only need to be tweaked because what we're doing is just implementing a different tool. It's just a new tool that we're using to provide the existing services we've already been providing for over 4 decades. So I would step back a little bit with thinking that we have to have go into a exhausting process of creating guidelines. My experience has been that by the time a group of people get done and approve guidelines, the pandemic will be over by 9 months. So good luck with that. But sorry, that was sarcastic. Didn't mean it to be that way. So what I would recommend is that for individual area service committees, regional service committees that are providing local services that are trying to adjust to this tool, for their members to reach out specifically to, I hate to throw us under the bus here, Shane, but Shane, me, Chris, Lavina, we will adjust our times accordingly to meet with each of you. If we need to have a summit, a PR summit on Zoom, an H&I summit for prisons, an H&I summit for treatment centers, those might be options that we could look to do to bring in subject matter experts in regions and areas to help them adjust to implementing this tool. That's all I got. Thanks, Shane.
Hey, just real quick, what I tell you is don't wait for the guidelines. And in general, the kind of guidelines we would put out for something like this wouldn't be like a rule book. It would be a set of hints and tips and tricks, all right?
Like
ideas, all right? Because by the time we laid out a set of hardcore rules or tried to do that, the technology would have moved beyond us, and there'd be whole new problems. Instead of looking for an absolute set of rules, you'd be looking for more of a a generalized set of principles that you can use through all these efforts. Because like I said, the rules will be outdated by the time they come out. And the other thing I wanted to bring up just from this discussion, you know, we were thinking about trying to do this with H&I specifically long before any kind of a pandemic or crisis came up. You know, there's been issues inside of NA with getting people to be able to actually go physically to facilities. A lot of times these prisons are a long way away from where anybody lives. And, you know, just because this particular crisis is over doesn't mean that there's not room for these tool sets in our, you know, our regular services that we provide. So, you know, one way we could actually be able to bring an NA presence into a prison or a correctional facility is to do it online. It also opens up, you know, situations where, you know, people might actually be able to experience what a real NA meeting looks like, you know, because you've all seen what we do with H&I in prisons and panel discussions and that kind of thing. And, you know, a panel discussion is 3 guys or 3 people, 3 members or more sitting up there almost like lecturing you, right? Now the prisoners may not be able to go back and forth like in a real NA meeting, but they might be able to witness what happens in a real NA meeting and when people share and that type of thing. So, you know, there's a lot of opportunities that are open, and even if some of those turn out to be bad ideas, like, you know, when we find that out, we don't do the things that don't work. So just want to bring that up.
So Chris, we got 8 hands up, so try to.
Yeah, I'm just going to show you the rough idea of the IP, and then we got to get to the hands. So again, this is not, there's a whole group of us from a bunch of different states with varying levels of experience with virtual meetings and service. This is not meant to be any type of rule. It's meant to be a conversation with each group. Each home group hopefully will take this stuff into consideration. A lot of questions we all get is like, how do the traditions apply to these new platforms? Because a lot of people are very, like, they're not familiar with this. And the answer to that is the traditions still apply as they would in a normal in-person home group. Nothing's changed. It just looks a little different. That's all this says. The 7th tradition, we don't tell you exactly what to use. Just do an internet search for like a peer-to-peer service and you can find out what works best for your home group. A little bit about meeting etiquette. If you would do it in an in-person meeting, do it in a virtual meeting. If you would not do it in an in-person meeting, don't do it in a virtual meeting. You know, show up fully clothed. Don't be like, you know, making dinner, taking care of your kids and all that during the virtual meeting. It's very distracting. So a lot of groups have that conversation video on or off, you know. These are things that your group will consider. This is still being edited. This is not the final draft, so it's not going to be released till we're done. Right? But it is being drafted, right? We are trying our best to get this out as fast as possible for you. So just bear with us. You know, hopefully Tuesday or so it'll be done. We'll go from that. Now we're going to go right to the hands because we got a whole lot of people up. So the next one is going to be I Love NA. Go ahead. I Love NA, you're unmuted.
Let me find him in the. Oh, I see her. Oh, she's trying to talk. Are you trying to talk? Oh, she says look in the chat, Chris. Oh, okay, sure.
All right.
You want to read it?
Sure. Due to respiratory issues, it's difficult to speak. First, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I have a question on a different topic associated with virtual meetings. Are there any guidelines on how NA groups can responsibly handle the 7 tradition funds to pay for virtual meeting fees and donate to area, region, and world? If not, any suggestions? What are the thoughts about GoFundMe page on Facebook? It is important that we have consistent and responsible way to make the message available to addicts. At the same time, to be responsible with NA funds It's a new day. We need new ways. Thank you for your feedback, knowledge, and service. Respectfully, Maria from Orlando. Thank you, Maria. Again, there's no guidelines. That's what we've been saying. So these are meant for your groups to decide one-on-one and group autonomy, like what you guys want to do. That's what's going to work for right now. This is going to be a temporary thing. That IP hopefully be ready. It's not designed to tell you what to do. It doesn't endorse any specific platform. It just says, here's some things to consider. Your group is going to have to make that decision.
And I'll drop in some things to consider that we did for our group. The first was associated fees. Okay. Like we chose some platforms that because we do Venmo. Well, first would be accessibility. If, when you're passing the basket in the meeting, everybody has access to that basket, right? Because it goes past them, right? They can put something in. Now, how many people use PayPal? How many people are used to using Venmo? How many people are used to using Cash App? And to be honest, in different parts of the world, that looks different. That's a cultural thing. The older crowd is used to PayPal. The younger crowd is used to Venmo and Cash App. Okay. So, the millennials are, just culturally, it's just the reality. And so, our home group was a bunch of damn millennials. So they did Venmo, and me, the old guy, I started giving them shit saying, well, I don't even have Venmo and I know how to do all this stuff. What about PayPal? And so we made some decisions we did a Cash App too. We made decisions to open all three of those. So then you think about accountability. Okay. Who's the treasurer? Where does the money go? And how are they accountable to the group for that money? So you establish a protocol for that. Like if you have an envelope at your home group, your face-to-face home group, that at the end of the meeting, somebody counts with the group secretary or whatever, and they write on the envelope, and then they close the envelope. And then, we send screenshots out to the entire home group in a group chat whenever everything comes in at the end of the meeting. So everybody knows that's how much money we have. Now there's some other stuff to consider too. NA is a cash heavy place. Like you go to the bank, you're your group treasurer, your area treasurer, you're carrying a bunch of ones and you're carrying a bunch of coins. It's a pain in the ass, right? And also, you may not go to the bank. Like you might just go to the area meeting. So you got to consider taxes. The government has stuff in place for the anti-terrorism. After 9/11, there was all these new banking acts. And so if you're doing Cash App, if you're doing any online transaction, there is a transaction for that. And you got to think about the person who's accepting all that money, who's got their name on that bank account. If you're not a business or a 501c3 or like an area or a region, if you're a normal everyday person, all of a sudden your bank and your statements show that you've accepted this money came into your account. So are you going to be accountable for taxes down the road for that? All that stuff is stuff to consider. And that's why our home group for 2 years never took money, because we didn't need to. We didn't want to deal with any of that shit. I told people if they wanted to send us money, mail me a check. Mail me. If you're dead set on sending me money and you want to do it so bad, mail me a $5 money order or something. But in lieu of, what are some options in lieu of accepting money? Well, you can tell people to go directly to World Services or regional websites or something and donate. They can buy a book for someone and give it to them. I mean, there's numerous ways that you don't have to hand money to the actual home group for that money to get used on NA services that actually provide services. And that that leaves it up to your creativity. Do you want to take the NA.org PSA? Do you want to go and download that 30-second PSA and boost it on social media? Do you want to spend $5 on boosting that, to go out to more people? There's lots of ways you can figure out stuff like that without having to actually put that money in the structure. And those are some of the things. Our home group decided we wanted to fund a nationwide virtual meetings phone line. And so based on the BMLT and YAP technology. And so that's what we did. We looked up one day and had $600 in our bank account after a week. And we thought, all right, we got to do something useful with it. And so that's what we decided as a group with about 12 home group members, So, Greg, Kelly, you got anything you want to throw in or?
I mean, some of the concerns I'm looking in the chat, you know, they're concerned about the transaction fees, and you know, all I can tell you is, you know, the way finances work, there's almost always some kind of a transaction fees in banking anymore. You know, I have a business and I have to pay transaction fees because I want to take credit cards, and uh, you know, there's nothing inherently wrong about paying transaction fees, but we want to be responsible with the money people are donating. So we want our transaction fees to be as low as possible. So, you know, don't worry that you have to pay the transaction fee. There's nothing wrong, and it doesn't violate traditions or any of that kind of stuff that we have to pay for the service of financial transactions. The deal is search around, find the best deal, find the thing that works the best, and use it. So,
Well, and you know what? That just makes some great points, because think about what it actually costs a trusted servant to be the treasurer. Like, think of the time that they have to spend going around and doing all this stuff and what that costs them in their life. Think about the gas going back and forth to the bank. I mean, it's probably comparable or even better a lot of times to do it online. And here's the dope fiend in me. All right. There's a transaction fee paid by someone, but it doesn't mean it's us. The bank might have to pay it. So do you want the transaction fee coming out of the bank's portion or the member's portion? So that's something to consider too. And I will say, without endorsing any one of those particular peer-to-peer, you know, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, there are some where the fees come out of the bank and not the people, not the people in the fellowship. So, and that's easily found. I won't tell you which one, because that would be kind of an endorsement, but you can find, you know what, you send me a private, you know, send me your email and I'll have our home group treasurer put together a report we can send out to everyone so they can understand why we chose what we chose. That's probably a better option, so you guys can make a better informed decision.